Maybe it will get weird. I mean, it will get weird. Hello, welcome back to Learning Curves. I'm Anastasia, and I need to talk to you guys. So I just had an experience where I spent a concentrated amount of time with a lot of people I hadn't seen in a long time. In fact, I don't think I've spent concentrated amount of time with anyone like this in over 2 years, aside from the people in my household. And it was very interesting and educational and challenging. You know, it was interesting. There were some people I hadn't seen in 2 years where picked right up where we left off. It was like we hadn't missed a beat. And then there were other people who, I thought we had our relationships kind of in a stasis, like in a, this is how we are. This is how we are. And it's cool. It's good. It's fine. All the things are fine. Kind of like marriage before babies. I found challenges in those relationships that I had not experienced before and that I was really surprised by and really taken aback by. And so I've been doing a lot of processing since then. And I'm kind of excited about the stuff I've been learning, and I feel really emboldened and about this stuff. And anyway, I'm excited to share this stuff with you and see what you think about it. And let's just get to talking. So I think the root of my challenges in these established relationships was that in these new experiences, I felt really misunderstood, and I felt like I was hearing a lot of misunderstanding other people. I kept my mouth shut for a lot of it because I was so taken aback, and I don't like to kind of speak off the cuff about things that are hard. I don't want to be saying things that I don't really mean, and I want to make sure that I can find the kindest, most respectful way to share hard messages. So I did a lot of thinking and processing. Also, I felt really outnumbered. I don't know. I felt different. I felt different from most of the people that I was spending time with. And I was the only one. So there's also some am I wrong? Am I? Did they? So regardless of right or wrong, I'm just going to share the things I learned. And I'm not even going to touch on the actual subjects that we talked about because that's not helpful. And also I feel like it would be kind of a betrayal of those relationships to share the meat of those conversations. You don't care. I think most of the challenges that I experienced could all be boiled down to pain. I'll explain. So I've been listening to a lot of Brené Brown recently. It all started with a YouTube recommendation of when Brené was on an episode of Tim Ferriss's podcast. I will link it in the description. But then I moved on to, I was like, you know what? I love this woman. I need to take in more Brené. And she started a podcast last year, right around lockdown time, called Unlocking Us. I'm just hearing it. Lockdown, unlocking. Anyway, on one of her first episodes, she had on Tarana Burke, who was the founder of MeToo. I very much recommend that episode for a lot of reasons, but largely because I didn't understand the genesis of MeToo. I didn't understand that Tarana started it to help support young women, 13-year-old girls that she was sort of mentoring. It was really enlightening, and I super recommend it for all of the reasons. But I'm going to give you some quotes from the episode in this episode. Video? Whatever. So one of the things that Tarana said was, the reality is we've all felt pain. Most of us have experienced trauma. Most of us have experienced loss, right? These are the things that people carry. Brené said it a different way. She said, raise your hand if you know rage, powerlessness, pain, trauma. We can all relate to these things, right? We've all experienced these things. So a lot of this has had me thinking about, what's changed. COVID, right? Quarantine, social distancing, lockdown, all that business. Prior to all of this, a friend of mine had been talking about, this might not be revolutionary to you. You might be like, duh. But for me, I was like, oh my God, yes. She was talking about how in this social media world, you can leave a comment that's mean, you can cyberbully, whatever, you can even just say something more aggressive than you would have said in person, and you can run away, you can disappear. Whereas we used to, if we wanted to say that to someone, you'd have to say it in person or on the phone or something, and you'd have to sit in that uncomfortable situation. But to say it on the internet, it's easier, it's cheaper. And because of that, I think more of us are saying it, and we aren't learning and growing from the discomfort. Quarantine is like that to the most. We were able to curate our environments. We were in our own echo chambers. We weren't having to sit in a restaurant and hear a conversation at a table next to us that we didn't agree with. You're not going to social gatherings where you're hearing other people in the room have a conversation you don't agree with, or hearing another perspective that you wouldn't otherwise hear. You are only experiencing the things that you are searching for, that you are asking for. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, it gives us more of what we want so that we'll stay there longer. So it's not going to give us the stuff that really challenges us unless that's something that you look for. It's just going to give us stuff that kind of reinforces the way we already feel. And in that way, we are getting less and less comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be uncomfortable. Duh, right? It's hard. It hurts. Why am I leaning over here? So weird. Sorry. It is uncomfortable to be uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. And it's also something that's important, right? Like no pain, no gain, So much growth comes from discomfort, and we are having less and less of it. And so I think that for some of these circumstances that were uncomfortable for me, I think for some of those people, maybe myself included, I mean, obviously I was there, I was in this, there's no way that I didn't have some piece of that responsibility. But I feel like a lot of what I was seeing was because I was kind of the minority in mentality in this group. So much of what I saw were people feeling emboldened to say things that they wouldn't have said around me or maybe in general. It just felt like I was seeing the bowels of the echo chamber and I was not comfortable. So then thinking about being uncomfortable, there's another quote I want to read. I'll bring the laptop over. From Brené's podcast. Tarana said, "I don't even want to think about my things." She said, "Even as a Black person, I'd rather not think about racism and oppression. As a survivor, I'd rather not think about the things I don't have and the things that happened to me. I don't even want to think about them. So I know the people who didn't experience them don't want to think about them." And in the Tim Ferriss podcast episode, there's this really interesting exchange where Brené Brown, she advises all of these like Fortune 50 companies, not all of these, there are only 50 of them, but they will be like, "Why are you even here?" And she talks about how it's like great bands breaking up. It's like these companies are doing really well, but they hate each other. She does a lot of cussing, and privately I do a lot of cussing, but I don't want to do that on my channel. So she's talking about how, there's so much they can do interpersonally, like so much she can do in that room, but some people need to go. I think all of us need to go, but some people specifically need to go to therapy to figure their business out before they can figure their business out, before they can figure their business out. I crack me up. She talked about how some people are like, "Yeah, I just don't, I don't want to go there. I don't want to open Pandora's box." And she's like, "That's fine, but are you under the impression that you're living outside of the box? Because the box is closed, but you are very much in that box." And then another way that Tim Ferriss later says it in the show is, people talk about like, "Yeah, I just don't want to deal with that. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with all that." And he's like, they both like, "Oh, you're dealing with it. You are dealing with it." And Brené goes on to say, it's so much easier to offload, to like outsource our pain by pushing it off to other people, hurting other people, than it is for us to go through the box. So it made me think about, I was raised Catholic, and from my Catholic upbringing, I'm thinking about the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We have got that backwards right now. I think right now what we're doing is treating other people how we feel treated. So I think all of us are walking around hurt, feeling hurt all the time, and hurting everyone else. We're just passing it around. So we hurt other people, and then those people feel hurt, and they're like, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna hurt you." But what I don't understand is if we think that the world is not being kind to us or being understanding to us, like, why do we think it's going to be any better if we're not being kind and understanding out in the world? Maybe healed people can heal people. Is anybody healed? That's not. And another kind of tangential piece of this is that I think that a lot of us don't feel seen for like in the work that we're doing and the stuff we're trying to do and the good we're trying to put out in the world. And because we don't feel seen, we're like, "You don't see me, so I'm not going to see you." So when somebody else does something, we're not like, "Hey, thank you. That meant a lot to me." Anyway, that's another video. Okay. So this is the rest of the Tarana quote. The reality is we've all felt pain. Most of us have experienced trauma. Most of us have experienced loss, right? These are the things that people carry. The residue that the trauma leaves is very similar to a lot of different things. She says if you can get away from the detail to what it is that it left with you, then there's a better chance of people connecting to that. Because the residue of what your particular trauma or pain experience left, whether it be grief or shame or rage or powerlessness, whatever those things are that, Brené mentioned, if you can see, not, oh, you had this experience, well, I don't have that experience. Like, oh, you felt powerless. I have felt powerless. I know what that's like. So then when Brené, what you should just listen to the podcast, because I'm just like giving you the notes for it, whatever. So when Brené was talking about raise your hand if you felt blah, 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 not blah, 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 but she said, a lot of us have had the experiences that we need to share genuine empathy, that residue piece. We've all had something that's left that residue. She said, not all of us are willing to tap into them to make that connection. And so what I think is impossible is to both self-protect and insulate, stay in the box, and hear other people at the same time. So much hand movement. You cannot understand someone else from inside your Pandora's box. I think what is so hard about this is that understanding, like hearing someone and saying, me too, saying, I have felt pain too, I have felt powerlessness too, I have felt these awful things too. I mean, it feels like giving something away. You've got to peek out of your box. You got to peek out of the Pandora's box in order to say, I get that. Because you have to say, I get that. I have gotten that. I have had a hard time. And sometimes saying I've had a hard time feels like admitting a weakness, which it's not, but it feels that way, totally feels that way. It is really scary to feel like you are giving something away in that admittance when you feel like you don't have enough as it is. And I feel like most people we don't feel like we have enough right now. And when you feel like you don't have enough is kind of when it's the most important time to give. I think about labor with everything. Like with labor and delivery, that's when you think you're done, when you think, I can't do it, I'm done, I quit, I bet you're pretty close to transition. It's always darkest before the dawn. I don't know. I don't have an answer. It is hard. It is really hard to peek out of the box. It's really hard to admit you have a box, a Pandora's box. This is sounding sexual. So I guess the moral of the story is, like maybe I left this part out, but these people that I had really challenging interactions with are people I care about deeply. And that was part of what was so upsetting because, I think we're all inherently good. I think that it's just that our pain comes out in ways that can be really harmful and can be bad. So I try to understand, like, what's a reason that makes sense that this person that I care about would behave in a way that I find really hurtful and upsetting. And there's a chance that I'm just trying to like excuse away some of this stuff because I can't tell somebody these are not, my relationships with these people are not in a way that I can be like, you need to get your Pandora's box figured out because I am the one who's dealing with the thing you're not dealing with. I could do that maybe with some of my siblings, although most of them I think we all know how giant our Pandora's boxes are. And we're just, what do you got over there? Here, take mine. Here, anyway. Also, I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. I've made all these videos about how to have hard conversations. And I still I don't want to. There have been some conversations that I feel like maybe aren't necessary and to have directly with that person. And maybe that's just a lie I tell myself. But sometimes I think that maybe if I just make a shift within myself, that can be enough to address this challenge. I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like I may sound like I have it figured out, but I promise you that is inaccurate. I am biting my fingernails till they bleed, beauty guru thing, and I've got this rash that is, my body is like, ooh, because it's not coming out here, so it's coming out everywhere else, and I don't know. This is just where I am with it. Like my doula, then midwife, same person, said for my first birth and second birth, it's hard and you can do it. That's it. You're welcome for being that's it, not for the, anyway, you're welcome too if that was helpful. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like this video and please consider subscribing right here. Did I do it right? I encourage you to peek outside of the box and to try to be gentle with yourself and with others and to look for the residue. It's so gross, like MTV when they used to have the black. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi, everybody. So this pet, go away. It's not your turn anymore. Should have been like, it's hard and you can do it. I did not invite you back.